Hi guys, this is Mr. Lakin. I'm going to be walking you through the Unit 12 portion of our last CAT subject, and this section is going to be on conic sections. Basically what a conic section is it's going to be, like I have a picture here of two cones, one upside down on top of the other, and I have this rectangular plane, and if I slice this cone with the rectangular plane horizontally, I end up getting a circle. This next one in yellow is that if I take that same plane, but I tilt that plane just a little bit, either at the top cone or at the bottom cone, I'm going to end up getting that cross section of an ellipse. If I tilt that plane even further and end up slicing that cone, not necessarily going through both ends of the cone, but now going through a portion of the cone that starts a little bit in the middle, I end up getting a parabola. If that plane is vertical, that green plane is vertical, I am getting two shapes called a hyperbola. We're going to be working with the circle, the ellipse, the parabola, and the hyperbola, this unit. And what you'll need to work on this unit, this section rather, is going to be just the circle. Now please note, all of these have their own little equations, and that's going to be the trickiest part of it. So we're going to give you a study sheet at the end of the unit that kind of summarizes all these different equations that you're going to see. I'll go and get started. So we're going to work on circles today, and go to answer now. Take a minute to pause the video and just answer what you already know or remember about circles. So some things you might remember about circles is that a circle will always have a radius and a center. That's really all. So what we're going to do though is we're going to write the equation of the circles in standard form. We're going to go from a general form and convert it to a standard form as well, and we should be able to graph the circle. So here's your first examples, or rather your notes. Here's the standard form for a circle. Your radius is going to be r. Notice that r is squared inside the equation of the circle. The h and the k, notice how they're minus here and minus for the k? The center of the circle is going to be positive h and a positive k. And I think you've seen this before at some point in your math class, but again, we're going to be going over it now. And since I'm pretty confident that you've done this before, we're going to go ahead and move on to the equation. I have those notes up here, and now we're just going to answer these questions. If I have this equation, x plus 3 in parentheses squared and y minus 1 in parentheses squared equal to 25, I should be able to identify the center and the radius and be able to graph this circle. Well, the h value is going to be negative 3, because again, if I have a positive 3, it's being minused. I mean, the equation has already minus that value, which means h was a negative 3. In simpler terms, if that was confusing, is you just take the opposite sign inside the parentheses. The k value should be a positive 1, which means your center is going to be at negative 3, 1. Your radius is this number here, which is the last number, and it's squared always. So your radius squared is equal to 25. That means your radius has to be equal to the square root of 25, which is equal to 5. Now what I do with all that information is I'm going to plot it on the graph. So I'm going to go to the center of negative 3, 1, which is about right here. And I have a radius of 5. And what that means is I'll be able to go from the center to the right 5, to the left 5, up 5, and down 5. So if I go to the right 5, I'm going to end up at 2, 1. If I go up 5 from the center, I'm going to be at negative 3, 6. If I go to the left 5 units, I'm going to be at negative 8, 1. If I go down 5 units from negative 3, 1, I'm going to be at negative 3, negative 4. Again, I went a distance of a radius of 5 for each point in the horizontal and vertical distance, right, left, up, and down 5 units. I'll connect those outlying points, and connect them to the best of my ability, and that should be the graph of my circle. The next problem is going to be what makes the equation a circle. Now, what makes the equation a circle here is A should equal B. There won't be a difference in signs here. When there's a difference in signs, that means you're going to get, or if there's a different numbers, like A is 4 and B is 2, that means you're going to be getting shapes like an ellipse or hyperbola. So again, here's the general form. Remember, our standard form was x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. We want to get, if we're given this equation, we would like to put this equation back into the standard form. Because in the standard form, our circles are easier to graph. So, for the next example, we're going to identify the conic. Well, A looks like it's 9, because that is the coefficient of x squared, and B looks like it's 9. This means that we have a circle. Now what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to write the conic in standard form. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go back to something called completing the square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these terms in red, these terms in red, and I'm going to put them together. I'm going to take these terms in green, and I'm going to put those together. And on that other side of the equation, I'm going to move the numbers that are not x and y. So again, I grouped the x's together, I grouped the y's together, and I moved everything that wasn't a y over to the other side of the equation. Now, what you need to do next is you need to complete the square. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 9 out of the red. So I have 9x squared plus 6x. I'll do the same thing in green. I'll take a 9 because I know I can see I can take a 9 out of both terms. And I'm going to have y squared minus 4y. It's the same thing on the left side of the equation. Nothing's changing there. Now, to complete the square, we need to take b, divide it by 2, and square it. And b, again, is going to be that middle term, that 6 and the negative 4. And we'll have to do that with each part. So in the red, I'm going to take that 6, I'm going to divide it by 2, which is going to be 3, and I'm going to square that. I'm going to do the same thing in green, and I'm going to talk you through it this time, but I'll write out this step on the side here so it's not so confusing as what I put in red. So I'm going to take that negative 4, I'm going to divide it by 2, which is negative 2, and I'm going to square it, which is going to be a positive 4. So here I'm going to have y squared minus 4y plus 4. Now, we have to be careful here because I just added a new number to both sides of the equation that weren't there before. So what I'm going to do in green is I'm going to add a plus of 4 times a 9. Because that number didn't exist there before. This 4 was being multiplied by this 9, and that wasn't in the equation to begin with on the left side. So I need to compensate for that. I'm going to do the same thing in red. Let me clean up this math for you here. It's 9x squared plus 6x. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. And then I have plus everything else. The extra number that I add on was 9 times the 9. So plus 9 times 9 was added on. So on the right side of the equation, I have negative 17 plus 36 plus 81. Now I'm almost done. I have 9, and this is a perfect square trinomial. We can write it as x plus 3 quantity squared. In the green, I still have the plus 9, and this part was also a perfect square trinomial. It was y minus 2 quantity squared. On the right side of the equation, I combine all these numbers, and it looks like I'm going to end up getting 100. Now, I'll finish this up. I'm going to divide by 9 on both sides because the standard form of the equation should be x and y with coefficients of 1 in front of the parentheses. So my final part is going to be x plus 3 quantity squared plus y minus 2 quantity squared equals 100 over 9. What does this tell me? This tells me that my center is going to be negative 3, 2. My radius is going to be the square root of 100 over 9, which is going to be 10 over 3. And those are my two answers. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to complete the square in these problems if you're given a general equation and going to a standard form. And this is going to be a theme in all of the units that we're going to be working on for hyperbolas, ellipses, and circles. You're going to always have to complete the square. So if you need practice with this skill, talk to your teacher, go to the MRC, make sure you're getting that appropriate help for yourself. Let's go on to the last one. I want to make sure that this last problem that you're going to be working on has a negative in front of the 3. Make sure that is true on your paper. You're going to be identifying the conic. So is it a circle? It probably is. Write the conic in standard form, and then identify the key components of the conic. Please pause the video now to go and try the problem on your own. You group the terms. So x's with x's, y's with y's. You move the non-xy terms to the other side. I also hope you were able to come up with it is a circle because the a value is negative 3. The b value is negative 3. Since the a and b values are the same sign, you have a circle. The rest of the math works out the following way. You should have been able to take out negative 3 out of both terms for x's and in both terms for y's. And if you do that, and you complete the square, you should get something that looks like this. The right side of the equation should have a negative 3 and a negative 12. Completing everything and dividing the negative 3's, so the coefficient of the x minus 1 squared and y plus 2 squareds are 1. That should yield a radius squared value of 3. This gives your center as 1, negative 2, because again you have opposite signs for the negative 1 and the positive 2 for your center. And your radius, again, this 3 is actually squared already for the radius. So we will be looking at the radius is the square root of 3. Hope you're able to get everything in this video that you needed. If not, please ask your teacher for more help. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Thank you.